Wednesday, March 29th. A digital bird chirp is heard across the world. News drops hinting at The Batman 2 featuring Clayface. Hell, there's even talk of a Mike Flanagan-directed Clayface solo project. The villain immediately brought worry to many, those calling out that Matt Reeves' Batman universe was too grounded for a character like Clayface. But that's just not true. The Batman is a gothic reality, a reality in touch with horror. In this first film, we were shown the horrors of the real world, but what else lies beyond that? What else can we see that shows us just how far our corruption can go? Clayface is a perfect gothic creature, a deformity of man that harkens back to classic universal monsters and the folly of man. It is a perfect avenue for exploring the themes and storytelling potential of this world. We haven't seen every corner of it yet. Who knows what could lurk in the rain-soaked alleys of Gotham? Any manner of creature can be there. All it takes is our belief. But here's the other thing. Often people regard Batman as the realistic superhero because he's just a man. But let's face it, there's nothing realistic about this guy. A billionaire who wants to help people? We all know that only exists in stories. The idea that Batman can't face villains like Clayface or Killer Croc or Poison Ivy or Mr. Freeze just because they only exist in a more quote-unquote fictional world is insane. We just have to believe it. We have to follow what is being told to us, and with these characters, these superheroes jumping around in spandex with their underwear on the outside, we do. There's a great quote from Grant Morrison, who is filled with great quotes, where they say, "Adults struggle desperately with fiction, demanding constantly that it conform to the rules of everyday life. Adults foolishly demand to know how Superman can possibly fly, or how Batman can possibly run a multi-billion-dollar business empire during the day and fight crime at night, when the answer is obvious, even to the smallest child, because it's not real." So let's allow our Batman world to exist outside the confines of reality. Let's allow Clayface to explore the themes of identity and what cost wearing a mask can have. Do people know Clayface anymore? A lot of these articles classify him as a lesser-known Batman villain, but come on, let's be real. The character moniker was first used in Detective Comics issue 40. That came out in 1940. He is an all-time classic of the Batman Rogues Gallery. Now, back then, Clayface was pretty different, more like the chameleon in Spider-Man than the big clump of living mud we all hopefully know and love today. He just wears masks though. The Clayface name is nothing more than a character Basil Carlo played in another movie. It wasn't until much later in the publication's history that Clayface became the monster we know today. And that version of Clayface wasn't Basil Carlo. We had two different versions who more closely resemble the Gollum of modern comics. Lady Clayface, Sandra Fuller, and then the properly named Clayface, Matt Hagen. Sandra became Lady Clayface on purpose, having been a part of a strike force Cobra and, as the wiki says, hated her own face, and subsequently became a person made of clay. Then there's Matt Hagen, who most people will recognize as the name of Clayface from Batman the Animated Series, as an actor who goes through a horrific accident and can no longer use his face, the thing that he made money off of, the thing that gave him purpose to further his career, to continue his job. He could only be in horror pictures now, given his deformed and scary look, until he was given a highly addictive face cream by Roland Daggett that gave him his good looks back, yeah, but given the addiction of being able to wear different faces, become different people, he not only started to lose himself, but he started to melt the more he used it. Now, this is the iconic version of the character, but in the comics, Matt Hagen was a treasure hunter who stumbled onto a vat of chemicals that turned him into Clayface, and now he has to return to it every 48 hours or else he'll die. The animated series, though, as it often did, gave us the definitive version of the origin that most people have come to believe as the true origin of Clayface. It's also just my personal favorite out of all the incarnations of the character. Now, how can all of this play into the themes and story of The Batman Part 2? Well, the fact that Bruce has neglected himself in favor of the Batman, and Bruce Wayne the persona is lost and easily corruptible because no one knows who Bruce Bruce is. It forces Bruce to come to terms with the duality of himself, of embracing both Batman and Bruce Wayne. Now that he understands he can't just be a rage-filled symbol of violence, angst, and anger via the vengeance persona he adopted as Batman, he has to be a symbol of hope and not allow his vengeance to consume him. Now that he understands the responsibility of being Batman, he needs to understand himself as Bruce Wayne. He needs to come to terms with that side of himself and understand that just because he's figured out who Batman is and needs to be, that's not the end of his journey. He needs to embrace who he is. He needs to understand that he can do good working as both Bruce Wayne and Batman. He needs to understand the value and purpose of being the city's wealthiest citizen. He has a responsibility to endorse candidates like Mayor Real, who is using their real face for good. Batman can only do so much in helping to restore Gotham. Batman is important. He can be a symbol, but Gotham also needs a hero with a face, someone the public can look up to and be inspired by. Not that Batman isn't that, but Batman isn't a person. He could be anyone. He's almost this mythic figure outside of the public's grasp. He's an idea.
I'm an idea.
Bruce Wayne is a man of flesh and blood, and while yes, someone like that can be ignored, he can use the duality of Bruce and Batman to shake the public out of apathy and be a public figure with a conscience. And if Bruce doesn't want to be that figure, he can be someone who supports the public figures doing the hard work to save Gotham. And that leads us to our two angles this story can take. Who is Bruce Wayne? This placeholder person. And then there's Batman. Figuring out who Bruce is part of refining Batman. Maybe he's perfected the mask, but there's still a man behind the mask. Until he figures that out, he's incomplete. Bruce needs to look to others to figure out how to become himself again. Whether it's Real or the other likely and heavily rumored villain of this story, Harvey Dent. I think it's clear to see how he will fit into this story about duality and identity. All of this echoes the current state of Gotham, a city flooded and in disarray. It longs to change and heal and move past the crime-infested filth that's plagued it for decades, but it doesn't quite know how. There's the Penguin building his own crime syndicate. There's the mayor trying to progress Gotham with actual legislation that will lay a foundation that Gotham can then use to move forward into the light. And she's doing this as the face of a new Gotham. There's Bruce trying to be this symbol of hope that Gotham doesn't have to be afraid of the criminals and bow down to the corrupt. I assume Harvey Dent will also play into this with being the district attorney, and he will have to make a choice whether he will uphold the beliefs he holds dear, stay true to his morals and values, or if the darkness of the city will consume him, will change his identity. Will he be Harvey or Two-Face? Gotham is a city fluctuating and unsure of who it is and what it wants to be. Just as all the main players are trying to figure out their respective identities, the city is doing so as well, and you can easily see the connection to characters like Clayface and Harvey, and absolutely Bruce Wayne. This false face that Gotham is being shown through Clayface can give Bruce false faith in his ideas of wearing his mask, allowing him to sink deeper into the idea that Batman is the only answer to the problems facing Gotham, when that couldn't be more wrong. Bruce Wayne, the public figure, is just as important. Even if Bruce feels as though it's not right for him, he needs to learn that it's necessary for him. He's the most powerful person in Gotham. He can usher in real change, really backing people like Real in that extent. Batman works as an agent of fear and hopefully becomes an agent of hope, but the people can't always look to symbols. We have to look to leaders like Harvey Dent, a force that corrupts those symbols and those faces in the criminal world by physically being able to become them is then the perfect way to complement that story, to show Bruce that wearing a mask is just as harmful as it is helpful. Clayface can seep into the underbelly of Gotham and corrupt those seen as incorruptible. This can somehow lead to the scarring of Harvey Dent, the birth of Two-Face, the continuing corruption of Gotham. The Waynes are linked to Falcone. Crime lies within the blood of the city, and even those who seem to have gotten away with it are sucked down into its depths. This gives Bruce a real chance to show the changes that can be brought to Gotham, a way for its people to stay good, to not fall into the darkness. All of this can tie in perfectly to the character of Matt Hagen or Basil Carlo or whatever Clayface version you want to use here. He's a man of many faces, an actor in search of adoration. He's forgotten entirely who he is. There's nothing underneath but an empty shell of a man who performs every day of his life, so much so that he seems to have forgotten who he is underneath, who that person is that he's neglected for years. What identity can be found under all of the grime? Is it something that he's ashamed of? Something he doesn't want to come to terms with? Is it the fact that maybe he doesn't really have any discernible personality and so he conforms to everyone and everything else around him? What can be discovered about Bruce, Matt, Harvey, Mayor Real, Jim Gordon, and so many more? Because Bruce has neglected himself so much, the takeover of Clayface can be even easier. Bruce is a shut-in, a recluse, and he isn't particularly a people person. Clayface can be exactly what the people want, a charming billionaire playboy philanthropist who gives us that cheesy smile that makes us feel safe. Matt can take that power he has as Bruce to gain the trust of the people and also can use that to frame Batman, making the regular people of Gotham fear Batman, and can also use that to frame Bruce Wayne, turning the public against him in a way that fits the narrative Matt is trying to craft. The people of Gotham, the figureheads at play, are just characters in a larger story Clayface is trying to construct, because the reality is Gotham is the sandbox for the story Clayface is orchestrating. He has the power to turn the people of Gotham against these figures instantly, and when the public turns on someone like a Bruce Wayne, what does that mean for Batman? With the media and the public coming down hard on Bruce and condemning him for the actions that Clayface has done, you have to imagine that that will have negative effects on Batman. It also forces Bruce to confront the fact that the public views Bruce Wayne as nothing more than a superficial billionaire who's kind of stoic. He has no discernible personality, so it's easy for people like Clayface to insert a personality in there where there is none. It's actually a pretty genius and meta way of commenting on the identity crisis that can bring to light the true fears Bruce has of people not having a hero to look up to, of people not being able to see the hope at the end of the tunnel, of making sure no kid has to go through what he has gone through. But Matt Hagen isn't the most stable. All of this time spent occupying a different person, the theatrics of it all can only make his mental state even worse. He needs some time to himself to reconnect with the real Matt Hagen, just like how Bruce Wayne needs time with Bruce Wayne to reconnect with who he truly is. Matt Hagen becomes a ghost of his former self through impersonating these people. The ideas of identity and what makes a good symbol can weigh on Bruce, making him question the true way he can be helping Gotham. But there's one more angle this can take that would be entirely different for this version of the Caped Crusader. I didn't mention Ethan Bennet beforehand, and that's because he actually isn't a character from the comics. He's from The Batman. No, not the movie, the animated show. In the show, Ethan was a childhood friend of Bruce's who joined the GCPD. Throughout the first season of the show, he, along with his partner Ellen Yin, are the main detectives trying to hunt down the Batman. Ethan has faith that Batman is on the right side of everything, but eventually this leads to his downfall. In the season 1 finale episodes, The Rubber Face of Comedy and The Clay Face of Tragedy, Joker creates a formula that turns things into a wet, bouncy ball-like material. He then uses it on Ethan, which decomposes his chemical makeup, turning him into this show's version of Clayface. Adapting this story to the silver screen could be fascinating. With Bruce having to come to terms with being a public figure again, he's going to have to rekindle old relationships and forge new ones. Introducing a character like Ethan, who was Bruce's best friend, could be a very interesting way to do this. Along with that, we can have Ethan be Bruce's entryway into the world of the already public faces of Gotham, given he's already a part of the GCPD. It could be a way to introduce us to Harvey Dent and strike up a relationship there, allowing Bruce to see what a person truly in the spotlight of Gotham can do to help the city. Ethan can also show us that not all of Gotham is corrupt, at least not yet. There are good people like Harvey, Real, or Gordon willing to do what is necessary, willing to fight. This can also defy our expectations of a Batman story in a sort of bait and switch way. If you introduce Harvey Dent, everyone is going to expect him to become Two-Face sooner rather than later. But what if that doesn't happen? What if the corrupted force in Gotham was Ethan? One of the few good cops in Gotham, one of the few people who wanted to help no matter what, turned into a creature of rage because of what the city has done to him, because of how the city is trying to consume itself. Ethan had struggled with the ideas of the city his whole time on the GCPD. He is truly trying to make a difference and believes in the people of Gotham, but time and time again, he is proven wrong by the maniacs that run this city. As Batman is trying to learn to inspire hope in and out of the cowl, Ethan's hope dies. His dreams of a better world are shattered as everyone turns their back on the monster that he has become. He isn't seen as the man he was before. All they can see is the melting remains of Clayface. This destroys the version of Ethan we had gotten to know, a man who wants to stay steadfast in his beliefs, who wants to fight above the corruption to bring Gotham out of its darkness. But Gotham is a city that adores the shadows, a city that thrives on corruption, and it shows Ethan that everyone is susceptible to the underbelly, that no man stays good, and to even fight for it is a foolish effort. All of this can up the stakes of Batman having to fight Clayface because they have such a storied past. It connects us to the villain in a way we never could connect with the Riddler. Riddler just looked up to Batman and saw them as having the same goal. Clayface was truly on Batman's side, on Bruce's side, but now that friendship is gone and all that remains is a monster. Now the big question is, how does Ethan become Clayface? And I believe the answer can lean into the gothic horror side of this world even more. You need something showing us the true face of Gotham, someone inspired by the Riddler and wanting to expose the demons that truly exist in Gotham's streets. Riddler did this message through the secrets of the highest ranking officials of Gotham by allowing us to see their dirty laundry. But what if the people were turned into true monsters? Not just allegorically, actually allowing us to see what these people are on the inside. This allows the horror of everything to come even more to the surface of the story. A great monster always serves to explain something about our fears in society. How can those fears come to the surface and show us the monsters that are in our everyday lives? How can we see the nightmare before us even in the heroes trying to save us? What if our villain is Kirk Langstrom, the Man-Bat? Now, throughout the story, we can show off different creature feature villains that Batman has fought in the comics, each one showing us a different ugly face of Gotham. This can all result in an encounter where Kirk turns Ethan into Clayface, allowing us to see through the facade of the GCPD, of the people who have sworn to protect us. It allows us to see the monster inside. Then, in the climax, we can have Kirk fully turn into Man-Bat, showing us the perfect version of the protector he believes this city needs. The demon, the monster, the true creature of the night that allows all of this to run. You can tie Kirk's history into Bruce as well. Maybe he was a geneticist at Wayne Enterprises and lost his job because Bruce didn't take the time to examine the scientific work that was being done there that could actually help save lives, that could help the people of Gotham in a way that's outside of beating criminals to a pulp. It could be a harsh reality check for Bruce when put up against the memory lane he gets to walk down with Ethan, a way to bring up the brighter sides of the Dark Knight's past while also exposing the mistakes Bruce Wayne still makes in the present. Now, this is all just the potential of what they can do with Clayface. I'm sure whatever Matt Reeves has in store for us will be a beautiful tale of grief and lost identity fused with the visual horrors of a Cronenberg film, a perfect gothic monster to complement the nightmare city that Gotham is. But that's just our ideas. What are your ideas? Leave a comment below telling us what you think they might do with Clayface in the Batman Part 2. With a character this malleable, the ideas really are endless, and I'm excited to see how Matt Reeves molds this unique slab of a villain into another compelling antagonist.